Good morning. I'm Alex Michelson at Fox 11 Newsroom with some breaking news, and it has been a horrible night in Monterey Park. A mass shooting event we are now covering. 10 people killed, at least 10 more injured. You're looking now at some video from a few hours ago that was shot by Skyfox. Here's what happened. Around 10:22 tonight, there was a shooting in the 100 block of West Garvey Avenue. What you're looking at is some of the aftermath of that. That area was home to a massive Lunar New Year celebration that happens every year. Organizers say as many as 100,000 people go to this festival. The festival was supposed to end around 9 o'clock, but clearly a lot of people still there partying. There was an event happening at a ballroom dance facility, and that's where we believe that this shooting occurred, at that ballroom dance facility. A gunman, we believe a male, walked in and started shooting. At least 10 people, as I said, were killed at the scene. Another 10 people injured, at least, and taken to local hospitals. That number could rise. We know that some of them are critically injured, which means the number of deaths could also rise. We don't know what motivated this gunman. We do know that the gunman is still on the loose. And if you think about the fact that this person just opened fire on so many people in this community, the fact that this person is still on the loose is a scary and important piece of information. The Sheriff's Department is helping the Monterey Park Police Department, which is a relatively small department, with this. Also getting help from the governor's office and the federal government as well. That department just overwhelmed in trying to figure out who did this, where they are, and to get them into custody as quickly as possible. Monterey Park, home to about 61,000 people. Of that, about 65% of them are Asian, 27% Latino, 6% white. So this is a community that is one of the most Asian communities. Part of what was being talked about at this festival today was the rise in hate against the AAPI community, ways to combat that. The sheriffs that just gave a briefing a short time ago did not speculate what the motive on this was. Was this anti-Asian hate? Was this something else? We don't know. We don't know who the suspect was. We don't really have a description of the suspect. We do know that many lives of people that were out to celebrate a joyous event, the Year of the Rabbit, Chinese Lunar New Year, are not coming home tonight. And that is just a horrible tragedy. So we have reporters that are headed to the scene. We have crews headed to another scene. There was another crime scene in Alhambra. We don't know exactly what happened there. We do know that they are looking into whether it was connected to this particular scene. So that's another thing that we're going to be looking at. And is it possible that that shooter then went to another scene and may have been disarmed at that scene or confronted at that scene? As you can imagine, the hour is late or early, depending on your perspective. There's a whole lot of people that have not gone to sleep yet, including myself. And the information at this point is still pretty sketchy and fluid. And sometimes in these situations, it is a bit of a fog of war situation where information you hear over scanner or that somebody said turns out to not be entirely true. We did wait several hours for an official law enforcement briefing, which finally just came, and they did give us at least the bare facts of what we know right now. The LA Times has some reporters at the scene, and they've been getting some interesting color They spoke to an individual named Seung-Won Choi, who owns a seafood barbecue restaurant across the street. And Mr. Choi said that right after this shooting, 3 people rushed to his restaurant, told him to lock the door, and they reported seeing a gunman with semi-automatic weapons who then reloaded and continued to shoot at people. That information not yet confirmed by law enforcement, but is some witness perspective on the scene. And hopefully when our reporters get out there, they may be able to get some witness information as well. So we're looking at several different scenes that we're following right now. One is the crime scene itself in Monterey Park. The other is that additional crime scene in Alhambra. And then we're also focused on local hospitals, including, I believe, County USC Medical Center, where some of these victims have been taken for treatment, to try to get more information from them in terms of their condition, and they also may be able to, if they're in good enough condition where they're able to talk, could be valuable for law enforcement to be able to get more information about the potential shooter. You see one of the victims here being taken out on a stretcher. This video is into our newsroom from a couple hours ago from photographers that are on the scene. We're awaiting live pictures from our crews that are just getting there. As you can imagine, for everybody, this is a bit of a challenge from a timing perspective. This is happening in the middle of the night when a lot of people are not usually on staff, on the weekend when a lot of people are not on staff too. And that makes this response, both from the media and from some in law enforcement, a little more challenging, as a lot of people are getting woken up in the middle of the night trying to make sense of this and trying to rush to this scene. From all the reports that we have, the scene itself several hours ago was a joyous one, and there was a lot of celebration in the air, that it was Lunar New Year, that we're coming out of COVID, and that we can now celebrate with each other together. You see there the law enforcement on scene. This is a joint operation between several different law enforcement agencies. It started, of course, with Monterey Park Police. They are now being joined by LA County Sheriffs, who, until a short time ago, their headquarters was in Monterey Park. They have a big presence in the area. We also heard that the Governor's Office of Emergency Services is involved in the response for all of this now. And we certainly believe that the federal government will be interested in this and participating, especially in a potential manhunt. This is one of the larger shootings that we've seen in LA County in some time. Obviously, our county does have experience dealing with mass trauma events. Certainly the Sheriff's Department is much larger and much more equipped to deal with something like this than Monterey Park Police are on their own. But this is going to be an all-hands-on-deck situation for everybody in law enforcement and rescue crews on the scene, including the fire department, who are out in force. You see there the sign saying Garvey is closed. Law enforcement did tell us that tomorrow's Lunar Festival, which again was expected to draw as much as 100,000 people to the area, is being canceled. It would be hard to imagine a joyous festival happening in what is now a crime scene with a whole lot of dead bodies. So for people that are thinking about or were thinking about going out there tomorrow, that is not the place to head. Instead, it will be a massive crime scene. And I would imagine soon also a place where people will bring flowers and probably a growing vigil. The sad reality in our country is we have way too much experience with mass shootings. We have gone through this routine so many times that you almost feel numb to it until you see the faces and hear the stories and understand how much all of these people mean to their families and their community members. One thing we've often heard in the field, I remember when we reported from the Borderline shooting back in 2018, which happened around the same time at night at a bar and grill, and we were on live around this time that night as well. And I was at the scene and talking to folks, and they said, we never thought it would happen here. We've seen it on TV, we knew it could happen, but we never thought it could happen here in our home. And now Monterey Park is going through that, and their name will be added to the list of other cities like Thousand Oaks with Borderline, and Sandy Hook, and Uvalde, and Aurora, and Columbine, and so many different cities that have experienced mass shootings, which is not a list that any city wants to be on. But now Monterey Park will be on. So far, we do not have any of these victims identified in terms of their names or their backgrounds. But in the days ahead, we will be learning a lot about them and their stories, which is always such a heartbreaking experience, and hearing from their loved ones and trying to understand the senseless reason for all this. So that is what we know at this moment, and we are going to stay on the air together to try to figure out more.